Okay, right. I know that I'm a bit late to the party in this news and all that stuff, but reason being is because I wanted to wait a little longer if there was any sort of related news online because there was a lot of speculation on certain characters here and there, like fate and all that stuff, right? So what am I talking about? Recently, Warhammer released a trailer called The 500 Worlds, where officially Demetrius Titus is now captain of the second company. Now, just to clarify, I don't know shit about Warhammer lore or anything like that. I only go by Space Marine 2 and also the Secret Level episode. I have seen some things here and there on YouTube talking about specific Space Marine chapters and all that stuff, but nothing too in depth. So excuse my knowledge of the Warhammer world. But it is confirmed that Titus is now the captain, and after that, there's been like a lot of speculation of like, well, if Titus is the captain now, what happened to Akaran? And like, funny enough, this kind of goes to show like how invested I was with the Space Marine 2 campaign. When people were talking about like Akaran, I thought they were like talking about some other random big name character in the Warhammer universe. But when people started saying Captain, I was like, oh, that character. How did that slip my mind? I have no fucking clue. But yeah, a lot of people were talking about like what happened to Captain Akaran, and also what happened to Chiron, because Chiron wasn't introduced in the 500 Worlds. And the reason being is because besides Titus, Captain Titus getting his own figurine, and Sergeant Matoris, and also Gadriel, who was one of the characters in the campaign that you play as if you're playing co-op with friends and stuff like that in Space Marine 2. He's also getting his own figurine, along with a bunch of other different characters, which I don't know the name of. But no Chiron. And so, a lot of people are speculating. And recently, Warhammer just confirmed that Captain Acheron and Chiron are no more. They're gone, essentially. Here's the thing, right? Here's my opinion on Space Marine 2. In terms of the campaign, right? The gameplay and all that stuff is fantastic, right? But in terms of the story and the characters, pretty damn bland. I feel like that you have to like, involve yourself into the lore of Warhammer just to know some things were going on, because they don't really give you an in-depth insight. But with that being said, when they announced in a blog post that these two characters are no more, I was kind of like, shouldn't they put that sort of information in like for example, like a novel, or even something to do with Space Marine 3, right? But they randomly decided to put it in a blog post. I think that was a pretty bad decision, regardless of like whether I think those characters were good or not. And given that, recently I found out that Captain Acheron is more established in the Warhammer universe, apparently, and also Chiron is a long veteran of being a Space Marine, and they're just gone now. So a lot of people are very up in their arms about it. But besides that, it kind of left to a lot of speculation of like what could potentially be Space Marine 3, because everyone knows that Space Marine 3 has got announced, right? And so what's going to go down in that game? Well, there's been a lot of things in terms of like what we've seen in this trailer, that besides, obviously, we're going to play Captain Titus. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But also, we could potentially play as Sergeant Matoris and Chiron with like the enemies and stuff. Like, a lot of people are like unanimously like assuming that the Necrons, which are essentially like sentient alien robots, all green and this and that, they could potentially be the next enemy. I sure as fuck that they will be the next enemy. If they're not, I mean, that'll be a surprise within itself. But like in terms of like from previous games, the first one we had like the orcs, Chaos Marines, Space Marine 2, the Tyranids, and the Thousand Sons. So, if the Necrons are confirmed, what could potentially be the second faction? I honestly don't know. I mean, we could end up seeing orcs again. There was some chatter like a while ago. Like it could be cool for orcs to return. I'm not too sure about that. I think they could focus on like an actual new enemy that hasn't been introduced into the Space Marine games. In like the story department, I mean, like obviously Titus is being tasked to, well, I'm not too sure on the logistics of it, but he is tasked to take back the 500 worlds where apparently the Ultramarines lost somehow, alongside Gilliman, who's the top guy. Could the Space Marine 3 storyline, will it take place like before this announcement or after this announcement? Because the thing is with Warhammer, just because this book, game, whatever has ended, doesn't mean that the lore and story of Warhammer has ended, because it keeps on going. Like the blog post of what happened to Acheron and all that stuff, they pretty much just tell you this is what happened, and so it's like a brisk pace well, not a brisk pace. They're continuing on the story of Warhammer. Whenever the story announcement of Space Marine 3 gets announced, at that time, it'll honestly, like, from how long the Space Marines live for, probably like 100 years have gone by. Like we could potentially see like the end of like the 500 worlds takeover, like the last few moments of that war, and the last bits are probably like us playing as Titus and Matoris and Gadriel, conquering the final world or something of that matter. I don't know, but that's my thought. That's my idea. Everything else is up to speculation on this. I mean, even though that this is just for like the tabletop stuff, the figurines and this and that. This is it has pretty much become a big deal because due to Space Marine 2's success and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing what's going on here. And of course, like some people aren't really particularly happy because fans of Warhammer haven't been favorable of like, they're pushing Titus as like the character of the Space Marines and Warhammer and all that stuff. I don't mind it, but for people who are more involved into the universe, they probably feel a bit cheated because there will probably be like a bunch of other different characters out there that probably deserve that title than Titus and all that stuff. But I understand that, and the whole Acheron and Chiron situation, yeah, I can get that as well, totally. But for me, who's not involved in that, I'm just like, all right, moving on. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about this. What do you guys think about this news? And what is your speculation for Space Marine 3? Tell me in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys later.